Aussies struggling to pay rent. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this article from realestate.com.au, originally from the Daily Telegraph, written by Matt Bell. And it's highlighting the fact that over half of Aussie tenants are expected to struggle to afford their rent as a result of, well, the recession. Everyone, it's the recession's fault. Just remember that. The recession is the price we're paying. First one in 28 years. And while, frankly, it was inevitable, this is just the bubble that's tipped us, or the pin that's tipped us over the edge. Will it hit housing? We have to have a look. Because, well, contrary to expectations, some rental markets are going up. Remember, we thought all of the Airbnbs would start flooding the market, and then that would start seeing a decline in rental properties. I tend to think that some of these people, or some of the articles, are just cherry-picking data. We'll have to see. Or maybe the Airbnb properties, the majority of them are investment apartments, and that's what's flooding the market, and that's why we're seeing a decline in the value of those. And more people want to get into houses, get into the regions, because, well, they've seen the risk of government intervention, locking us in our rooms as naughty children, and they want to have a little bit of room to relax around their house. Could that be a theory? So let's look at this. More than half of Australian tenants are struggling to afford their rent each month as a result of the pandemic. New research found 60% of tenants are either facing immediate problems in affording rent or anticipated they would not be able to in the coming months. See, this is the thing. We haven't really seen the impact of this recession yet, everyone. We haven't seen it yet. We've got to wait until the support mechanisms are pulled back. Then the question is, will it even be possible for the government to withdraw these support mechanisms? The JobKeeper, the mortgage holidays, the trading while insolvent, the job seeker bonus, the job maker. You know, I'm just waiting for Mortgage Keeper to materialize. I keep joking about it, but a part of me thinks it's not a joke. It's 2020, guys. This is just the year of insanity. What else can happen? The post-pandemic landlord-renter relationship in Australia has undertaken for the report undertaken for the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute also found financial hardship tenants were experiencing extended to not being able to pay utility bills on time, going without meals, and being unable to heat their homes. Now, here's the thing with the utility bills on time. Even before all of this stuff was happening, I remember reading articles about how food banks would see an increase in demand every time the utility bills came in, or to help people pay their mortgages. It's actually one of my rant videos you can see here from a year ago. And not surprisingly, it's in South Australia. And I'll try to remember to link to that in the card up above. But, you know, I tend to forget sometimes. So that's you know, part of it. This has been a problem with expensive utility bills for some time. And people going to food banks to meet their mortgage payments for some time. Before any of this even materialized, that was also an issue. Going without meals, yeah, well, fasting, I think, is a good thing. Part of my top 5 hints to prepare for the recession is to try some extended fasting if you're fit and healthy, just to, well, remove that fear of not being able to eat 3 meals a day from you. I know that that's very stoic, to expose yourself to hardships, to train yourself and to prepare, and that tends to, well, let you handle things a little bit better. What do you reckon, everyone? So this saw half of Australians surveyed this past winter by teams at RMIT University and the University of Adelaide ask for a reduction in rent. However, only 50% of those renters who asked were granted one to their satisfaction. So only half the people who asked got one. I mean, because it's housing, guys. Housing always goes up. I mean, look at these things. This is atrocious, this housing. Look at that. Look how small they are, packed together. This is even in Australia, it probably is. It's disgusting. I remember when it used to be a quarter-acre block. Look how close these are together. You're barely going to get any fire separation there if one goes up. Oh, boy. This is terrible. You might as well just build them together and have the roofs just... The only reason they're spreading them apart is so you don't have joint walls. That's terrible. And just imagine the thermal load it's going to be in that suburb. Where's the trees? Where's the kids playing? Wow. This is why you've got a generation that are now turning into a bunch of soft nutters that think the world's coming to an end because they've never been outside. They only believe everything they see on social media. I played outside as a kid. I try to get my kids to play outside. My backyard is a minefield of stuff. They'll build structures out of whatever we've got lying around there, and I guess that's kind of what you want, isn't it? Yeah, that gets me angry, guys. That gets me angry. Landlords who own their investment properties outright were better placed to offer reduced rent rather than those with mortgages felt conflicted, with many wanting to avoid falling into financial hardships themselves. See, this is the problem. Many of the landlords, the evil landlords, some of them are probably in a worse financial situation than their tenants. Because this is the only way to get ahead in Australia, sadly. Buying a property and then rent it out and then look down on people who rent from you, who sometimes may be in a better situation than you are. If you can't afford to manage the mortgage without getting that money coming in. What if something happened? What if you've had an extended period of someone not renting? Or government shuts down the economy? RMIT University researcher Dr. David Oswald said while JobKeeper and JobSeeker payments had kept the situation at bay for many, it has exposed flaws in Australia's housing system. Without this government support, many tenants would be in significantly worse positions, including potentially homeless, he said. Well, just think about how many people are on welfare and getting rent assistance and how many investment properties are essentially just supported by that. That's, we're reading articles about those, investment geniuses who had 30 properties and were buying more. They were buying in the lower socioeconomic areas because they knew that rent assistance and, job seeker will keep flowing no matter what happens in the economy. The pandemic has amplified many weaknesses such as affordability. Well, affordability it's completely off the chart. Rental security, overcrowding, and homelessness in the Australian housing system, and in particular, exacerbated many existing challenges in the rental sector. The report calls on the government to introduce a predictive negotiation framework to structure rent negotiations as a more formal process, policy flexibility on moving house to reduce the risk of homelessness, and establish a landlord hardship fund. The New South Wales government has extended its residential tenancy moratorium on evictions until the 31st of March to ease concerns many renters face in this area. Well, that's interesting. I honestly would suggest that we need to reduce negative gearing. But Florian, negative gearing means that people will rent these houses cheaper, so rents will be cheaper because they want to make a loss. I know that argument. Here's a counter-argument. Negative gearing encourages people to pay above the market values of property, creating a bubble and the Cantillon effect because the money supply is driven to houses, because it's one of the easiest and most effective ways for people to offset the insane amount of tax we pay in this country. That's why over 50% of our wealth is in housing, is in crap like this. Okay, that picture, that's not innovation. That is not innovation, that's not special, that's not advanced. The tiles are what? Several hundred years old technology, thousands of years old technology, and most of them now are probably worse than they were built in the past because we just stick a bit of shitty foam on some stud and spray it with bloody render, and half of it's flammable. If you look at some of these places, the dodgy stuff people are putting on. So yeah, this is why our economic complexity is in the gutter, guys, because this is where all the innovation is going. All the money is going. It's flowing into property. And you can't blame people because they can buy one of these little shit boxes, sit on it, and you've doubled your money in a year or 2 or 3 years. You're making more money sitting on a property than you are working a job. Why wouldn't you jump in? Even if it is a bubble, you've got to get in on the Ponzi scheme. Isn't that what's happening? Every bit of the media, news, TV shows, it's all about this. Then you don't need to deal with just the red tape of dealing with government at a state, federal, and local level. You don't have to deal with employing people. Forget all of that. But that's the problem. So it creates a demand for this stuff, and that jacks up the price. Then the people are forced to rent because they're struggling to get together enough money to get a deposit. That's the thing. You've got to really make some sacrifices. Some tough... And it's getting ludicrous now. People, understandably, they've lost hope because, for some of these things in Sydney and other places, the prices are approaching $1 million, which is insane compared to the average income. So, the moratorium prevents landlords evicting tenants who are financially disadvantaged by COVID-19 and allows impacted renters to break a lease without penalty. Ray White Erkinsville and Surrey Hills, head of property management, Melinda Fiore, said many of her tenants had needed support because of the recession. They're blaming it on COVID-19, but it really isn't. It's the government's intervention into the economy to try and mitigate the spread of the virus. That's what we have to remind ourselves. We had 160 properties impacted. 160, and we're still seeing in some areas property prices going up because they're juicing it, guys. They're throwing so many incentives to get people in, and some people, frankly, have probably been struggling. They're desperate to get into property. They've been saving forever, and they go, to hell with it. I'm getting in. Interest rates are so low, I don't care if I lose money. And what's going to happen if it corrects? I mean, okay, sure, a whole lot of people will feel bad, but then what else? The thing is, what other tricks can the government do to keep the bubble going? That's what you really have to think about. I think they'll open the floodgates again to bring more people in the country to increase demand for property. With many tenants going on payment plans, while I know some have to withdraw from their superannuation account to support themselves, she said. Well, who cares? Superannuation is their money. People should have access to it. I resent the fact that we're forced to save. I really do. I think it should be completely voluntary. And I know people are going to make a ruckus, but then they'll piss it all away and I'll have to support them, on the pension when they're old. Well, the same people are going to piss their super away anyway, guys, so it doesn't really matter. It'll just go in the pokies in 2 months when they retire. Yeah. Miss Fiore said there is more positivity in the air among renters with the economy of New South Wales having already reopened. Most tenants are in a much better place than 6 months ago, she said. Those still doing it tough have looked at leaving inner city for suburbs further out where they can get a better deal. The research follows data released last month that found the Sydney CBD was still the hardest hit region since the pandemic, started with vacancy rates 10% higher than a year ago at 13%. SQM research reported apartment rents in the CBD dropped by 7% over September and are now nearly 26% cheaper than a year ago. People are struggling to pay rent, but apartments are dropping by over a quarter in certain parts of Sydney. What does that tell you, guys? Maybe some people have unrealistic expectations of the value of their apartments, and people are going out to the suburbs to make their money go a bit further, particularly now with working from home. We'll have to see. What do you reckon? Are you struggling to pay your rent, or are you renting out to tenants, and are you giving them a good deal to keep them in? I know some landlords are doing what they can to keep their tenants in because, well, tough times may approach. This is a recession. You want that loyalty. As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. Simply interacting with the channel, commenting, liking, and sharing is a great way to help us grow. You can support us financially via joining the channel on YouTube or Patreon, using any of our affiliate links you find from Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband down below. It all helps. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays or the pocket squares you see right behind me there from our blog. You can support us using Gold Pass from the Perth Mint or via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.